Product shown rated E through M.
Here to honor the 2013 Walter Camp All-America team, a member of the College Football Hall of Fame and the MVP of Super Bowl 22, Doug Williams.
I stand here with great pride as alumnus of Walter Camp. Walter Camp is known as father of football. After playing at Yale, Camp coached at his alma mater and then at Stanford in the late 1880s. Innovation to football became instrumental in forming the game we see today. Camp is credited with the play from scrimmage, the numerical assessment of goals, the restriction of 11 men per side, set plays, and a system of downs. Walter Camp selected the first All-American team in 1889. Today, the Walter Camp All-American team is one of the most recognized and prestigious awards in college football. Let's take a look at this year's Walter Camp All-Americans.
The 2013 Walter Camp All-America team is led by Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron after an 11-1 season. Joining McCarron in the backfield are the two most prolific running backs in the country, Boston College's Andre Williams and Arizona's Kadeem Carey. Oregon State's Brandon Cooks and Texas A&M standout Mike Evans are your two wide receivers. The offensive line is anchored by a couple of all Big 12 first-teamers, Baylor guard Cyril Richardson and Oklahoma center Gabe Eichard. Kickers Roberto Aguayo and Anthony Farah round out the offense. Now let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. Bednarik Award and Outland Trophy finalist Aaron Donald headlines a stout defensive line. Alabama senior linebacker C.J. Mosley is the man in the middle for the linebacking core. TCU's Jason Verrett joins the Jim Thorpe Award finalist trio in the secondary. And Stanford's Ty Montgomery is your All-American kick returner. And now, here to present this year's honoree for the National College Football Awards Association contributions to college football, ladies and gentlemen, Lou Holtz.
The primary purpose for my appearance behind this rostrum is to honor John Gallardi with the NCFAA Contribution to College Football Award. A man's life can be defined by his work, and that excellence equates with winning. For John, those astounding numbers add up to more wins than anyone has ever coached college football. 489 wins and 4 national championships, all compiled during his 60 years of coaching. John's career as a coach actually began at age 16, when his high school coach was called to active duty in World War II. John stepped up to lead the team. By age 26, he was a head coach at Division III, St. John's University in Minnesota. He was a simple man with a simple message: to follow the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. He taught his team that football was important, but the life lessons about character, integrity, values, and education were far more important. He bypassed typical coaching practices like whistles, tackling, and mandatory weight room sessions, and instead concentrate on being prepared and fundamentally sound for his team. Despite his long list of attributes, everyone, including his players, called him John. He had over 100 players on his team, while only 11 could play at a time. They all felt important. An excellent husband of over 57 years to his wife Peg, and a great father. Times changed, but John did not. I got to know John when I coached at the University of Minnesota. He was not only loved by his players, alum, and fans, but also revered. He was not only successful, but also significant. You can make money, but when you die, it ends. When you're significant is when you help other people be successful, and that lasts many a lifetime.
The measure of a man can be defined in his life's work. Excellence is often equated with winning. John Gallardi won more games than any coach in college football history, 489. He coached for 60 years at St. John's University, a Division III Benedictine college in Minnesota, where he won 4 national championships. But not all merits are measured by numbers. There is no statistical value for virtue or integrity. In 1953, he came to St. John's, a 26-year-old head coach, a simple man with a simple message.
The only advice I'd say, treat everybody the way you'd like to be treated. I said that to my players over and over, year in and year out.
He taught that football wasn't everything. Football is a stepping stone to something more important. You know, your life, your family, your friends.
That's true. I think that was his philosophy. He didn't expect that you're going to go play in the pros, but he did expect that you're going to be good men.
First day of my freshman year, he took a dime out of his pocket and held it up to the sun. He said, "That dime is football and that sun is your education. Don't get them confused." And part of that was the respect for the human being and the whole notion that he was interested in your whole life. And it's because of the value system that the Benedictines have instilled at St. John's. I think the players responded to that.
Just trying to do the right thing. And that's really the only rule I ever had with him, the golden rule.
Gallardi preached personal accountability. In practice, he eliminated anything deemed unnecessary, an unorthodox approach he called winning with no's.
We didn't have any blocking sleds, no dummies, no whistles, no cals.
Probably the most radical was no tackling in practice. People say, how can you possibly do that? There were so many injuries in practice that it would hurt us in game time. So all we would work on in practice is defeating the blocking scheme, getting the proper pursuit, all the kind of things mental, you might say.
We were always very well prepared and fundamentally sound, and those are the things that are going to win a lot of football games.
His principles proved basic, yet effective. In 1963, St. John's won its first national championship, and another in 1965. In 1976, Gallardi won his third. He was revered as a coaching icon, yet to his players, he was still John.
I don't think everyone heard him, anyone has ever called him coach. I've heard it a couple times, and, he'll just say, "No, I'm John."
He was John. He's always been John. From the day one, he's been John. So if you have a question, call him John. We have a lot of guys on our team, 180 or so guys come out for the team. There's only 22 spots for starters. But every one of those kids is made to feel important on the team, and that's one of the legacies that John's left.
He is a community person, and that's really what St. John's is built on, is a community, that spirit. The neighborhood kids would always want him to play, because he'd play with us. And at that time, we're talking early 70s, dads were just going to work, bringing home the salaries, and he was all about family time.
Family life and coaching life became one and the same as son Jim joined the team as a player and later as an assistant coach. In 2003, father and son stood side by side to witness history.
Elliott split left, Riegelman to the right side, split back to the backfield. Keating under center, 5-step drop, back to pass, into the flat, Nelson the catch at the 6, to the 5, to the 4, dives, touchdown Johnnies! John Gallardi's 409th career game, history made here today.
People ask me how it's done, and well, tell them luck and prayers. Thanks very much.
The times changed, but the man did not. John Gallardi held on, and he kept winning.
John Gallardi trying to win his 4th national championship in first since 1976, and St. John's eschewing the field goal opportunity. Now the 14th play of this drive. And they swing it out to Tice. Tice needs some blocks downfield, and he gets into the end zone for the touchdown. Burkhart for Knapp, and it's picked off. Intercepted by Mike Sahar, and he is going to go. St. John's pulling off this upset, a 100-yard interception return for the Johnnies. So John Gallardi, for the 4th time, is a national champion.
It's hard for me to believe I'm married to him. He's done so many things so well.
After 70 years in coaching, John Gallardi retired. In 2013, at 86 years old, he watched a St. John's game from the stands for the very first time. Yet, John Gallardi was surrounded by his team.
Oh, God, I can't get out of this chair. Let me give you, good to see you.
How you doing, buddy?
Good to see you.
You doing good?
Good to see you. Only the best back we ever had here. Billy, how are you? Nice to see you.
How are you?
John, how are you? Good to see you.
There were things we didn't realize then that you taught us that are bigger than those things we learned on the field.
That makes me proud that I touched their lives, hopefully for the best.
John Gallardi. He leaves the game a coaching legend. And to his players, he will simply be remembered as a saint.
It is my honor and privilege to present this year's NCFAA Contribution to College Football Award to a fellow coach, a friend, and a great American, St. John Gallardi.
John, welcome and congratulations. Yes. We're honored to have you here. Contributions to college football. You join a very distinguished list of winners of this award. Which contribution to this sport makes you most proud?
Well, I have to say this about such an honor as this, that really a guy really should have the decency to be dead.
Why not? You know, you've got a loyal and loving group of players. They come back for St. John's games. They're here tonight. They represent St. John's teams from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and the 80s. What does it mean to have that group tell you what you've done for them over the years?
Well, it's nice to hear that kind of thing. They were great players. They actually made me look like I knew what I was doing.
When you look at those highlights and you see the trophy and you see a player or two that represents all the hard work that went into winning a game and a championship, what did you reflect just now looking back at those highlights?
Well, I look around me, this whole thing, it's just, football is the greatest game ever invented. And to be a small part of this whole great game with all of these unbelievable athletes and players and coaches, it just makes me feel very, very humble.
So win a lot of games and do it with integrity and do it your own way. Some unorthodox methods that the feature mentioned. How many times in your long career were you told, you're crazy, John? You can't do it that way?
I think a lot of times.
Why didn't you ever listen?
Well, I listened, but I didn't do it.
Well, I think it worked out. Where did you come up with the analogy of the dime and the sun? A lot of places in college football, that's kind of reversed. The sun for sure is football and the dime is education. What was the genesis of that story?
Well, football can be very important to a student and a coach and all that, but in the big scheme of things, it's not. It's like a dime as opposed to the sun, because as great as it seems to be, it is not the same as the sun.
Well, thank you for what you've done to your many decades of players over the years. Guys, I know it's a special night for all of St. John's players. Thank you for what you've done for the sport, and thank you for your presence here tonight. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Coach John Ghilardi.
Tom, Chris, thank you very much. Wow. Just a portrait in humility there from one coaching great to another. Joined by Nick Saban now. Nick, no tackling in practice, never using a whistle. We presume no straw hat that ever hit the turf. What's your take on that methodology?
Well, you know, one thing about it, these players all talked about being fundamentally sound and prepared, and I think that's very important to execution, so they obviously did a great job of executing. But the other thing that I heard throughout this was the old coaching cliche that players really don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I think that's probably the greatest thing that any coach has an impact on his players for, and John certainly did that extremely well for a lot of years.
Coaching across 7 decades. How does that sound to you?
I don't know if I could make it that long.
We appreciate your presence here as well tonight. Now, with a couple of other coaches who have quite a bit at stake, we go to Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk?
Yep, that's right. Gus Malzahn and Jimbo Fisher, of course, going up against each other in the national championship game. And it's been talked about so much, Coach. Your team last year, you weren't there, but struggled, obviously. Didn't win a conference game. You're in the national championship. How in the heck did you do that?
Tell you what, it's really been something. Our guys have found a way to improve each practice and each game. And, and here we are.
The scheme that you've been around and the quarterback that you have, I guess, would have a lot to do with this turnaround.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Our quarterback is out.